My name is Jason Schuster. I'm a doctor of physical therapy, and I'm the owner of Intricate Arch Spine and Body Solutions. We just made a 5-course series on nutrition, supplementation, epigenetics, peptide therapy, vitamin deficiency, and how to utilize that knowledge and understanding to optimize the health of your patients and yourself, right? So one of the biggest problems in American dieting is folic acid. So folic acid should not be put into any human being ever. There's zero reason for it. Folic acid is a cheap way for the government to say that we're fortifying all non-organic grains in the United States with folic acid. The bioavailable form of folate is called 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate. Folic acid is a synthetic alien version of folate that the body is required to break down in multiple steps. If you're eating folic acid, there's a 50 to 60% likelihood that you have a gene formation or gene expression pattern in your body that basically makes it impossible to methylate folic acid into the bioavailable usable form called 5-MTHF or 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate. If you're eating folic acid and you have one of these gene mutations, which 50 to 60% of the United States has, you are putting in water to the gas tank of your car every time you eat food, right? So every time you eat a little bit of folic acid, your body is having to work extra hard to break it down because it can't, but it keeps trying to. And what happens is a tiny bit of that folic acid gets converted into 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate. But the problem is because folic acid is an alien, non-natural substance that is not found anywhere on planet Earth. If your body can't break it down into 5-MTHF, what happens is you get a little bit of a reservoir of 5-MTHF and you get a big reservoir of folic acid, and folic acid has a high affinity for the folate receptors. So instead of the body using 5-MTHF, which it has a little of, it still continues to use folic acid. So then you end up with homocystinemia, elevated homocysteine levels, dysregulation of the autonomic nervous system. So that you have a 50% likelihood, if you're living in the United States, that you just can't break down folic acid at all, and your body is just trying over and over and over again, and all it's doing is expending energy and filling up your folate receptors with a non-usable form of folate. There's a study called the Boston Birth Cohort Study where they tested a bunch of newborn babies, and 100% of those babies had unmetabolized folic acid syndrome, which means that these babies at birth, their body was trying to use folic acid and it couldn't, so they had all this unmetabolized folic acid, which is very, very detrimental for neurodevelopment and stuff. So the reason that folic acid, or apparently the reason that folic acid was put into food, is because it helps with neurodevelopment. And having folate, especially if you're pregnant, but for anybody, having folate is very, very important. Folic acid is poison, right? The average human cannot break down folic acid, and 0 humans can break down folic acid properly because it's an alien substance. The other thing about folic acid, you guys, is if you look at this list on the left, the numbers 1 through 7, those are 7 required vitamins and minerals that you need to have at proper, sufficient concentrations to be able to break down folic acid if you have the ability. So if you're one of 2 people, more or less, and you have the ability to break down folic acid, you still can't break down folic acid if you're deficient in any of the substances on the left. If you look at magnesium and vitamin D, those are both on the left. If you look at the numbers on the right, in the right list, those are from the NHANES National Nutritional CDC study that was published in 2020. Per the United States government, 95% of the United States population is deficient in vitamin D, and 70% is deficient also in magnesium. So 95% of the population is deficient in vitamin D. That means 95% of the population that can break down folic acid can't, right? If they have the ability, they still 95% of those people that do have the underlying ability to break down folic acid, they can't because 95% of people are deficient in vitamin D. So basically, 5% of the whole population of the United States may be able to break down folic acid based on these numbers, right? And only 50% of those can break down folic acid anyways. So that's 2.5% of the entire United States population that can actually break down folic acid, and they still can't do it efficiently. And this crap is still being put into our food. So methylation and demethylation is the process of either adding or removing a CH3 group from a molecule, a methyl group. What that does is it changes the molecular structure, changes the charge of the molecule, and it changes its function. Typically, methylation and demethylation happen to make certain substances bioavailable, and they change other substances back, more or less, right? So if you can't methylate vitamins, if you can't methylate folic acid, which 97.5% of the country cannot, based on government numbers, this is poison that is being put into our food. And it's no wonder that in 2024, when we're using the same comprehensive metabolic blood panel as we did in 1957, like we've learned nothing over the last 50 years, that 80% of the population is overweight, obese, or morbidly obese. The average life expectancy is decreasing for the first time in a century, and the health of the United States is in the absolute toilet. If you want to learn more about this stuff, you guys, check out our 5-course series on nutrition, supplementation, epigenetics, peptide therapy, and vitamin deficiency. We have all of this stuff in there in depth in a lot more detail, along with a ton of other knowledge based on the most up-to-date, peer-reviewed research. It's an awesome class. I really think you guys are going to like it.